The Directors Guild Association nominations. Luckily, there's only 2 categories we got to do the noms and predictions for. The nominations have already come out for the DGA documentary, so thank goodness I didn't have to pick those, because I'm going to tell you, I would not have picked the 5 nominees they did, so whew, thank goodness my competition is still in check since I didn't have to predict those. I'm not going to give you guys the winner of that one yet because I've already made my documentary shortlist reactions and predictions video. I just haven't gotten it edited yet, so you're going to have to wait for my number 1 pick. I'm going to give you the names of the 5 films in alphabetical order so that there's no like thinking I'm ranking them or anything like that the DGA put up for Best Director for a documentary feature film. Here are the films: Daughters, Hollywood Gate, Porcelain War, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, and Sugarcane. I'm not going to give you anything else, right? I'm not going to talk about how I've read the reviews, watched the trailers, and give you a description. So you're going to have to wait for the documentary shortlist reactions and predictions video. So make sure you like, subscribe, and click that little bell to get notified of when I drop that one. Okay, so DGA, similar to, the Screen Actors Guild Award, this one solely has to do with the directors. And it's all members who are paid up and active. So, you got to kind of keep that in mind. It's directors voting for directors. They actually split things into 2 categories, right? They basically have an award for what they call a first-time director of a feature film. So that means if you've been nominated in any other category like documentary short, documentary feature, anything like that, you are eligible to still be in this first-time feature film documentary category. So that does play into account as we go through my list of 8. So yep, I did do 8 just like I normally do in these prediction videos. So here they are. And I'm actually going to give you a little bit of a background, like not a description of each film necessarily, but I'm going to tell you how many wins and nominations each film has got throughout the different film festivals, etc. Now that, again, is not specific to the director being nominated in a category or winning. This is about the overall film. But if I do know anything specific about the director, I will fill you in on that. So here's my list. Yep, you can see right off the bat a couple names that just pop out at you, right? Like, of course, I've got Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys being at number 1. You're probably thinking, Lisa, you just told me in the SAG video that just popped not that many hours ago that Nickel Boys was dead. I said it was dead in almost all categories except for maybe screenplay when it came to the Oscars. In things like this, yeah, I mean, he's got a chance. But I'll drop a little bit of knowledge on you guys because this is what I do, or this is how my ADHD brain works. I went back and I looked at all of the DGA winners for documentary, first-time feature film, and then feature film winners. And then I compared that to the list of nominations for the Oscars and then the winners of the Oscars for both documentary, and then obviously we only have the one category in Oscars, and that's feature film. So I did go back just to 2020, so, we're looking at like 5 years. I think that's a pretty good sample and representation of where we are now, or especially how much things have changed and are continuing to change in the last 5 years. So all of the past winners of the 5 years have not been nominated for an Oscar. They never got in the category. And the person who won the DGA First Time Feature Film last year was Celine Song for Past Lives. And for any cinephiles out there, you'll remember like everyone was talking about how that was a really big snub when it came to the Oscars. Well, between, this win and how well Past Lives did, of course, people looked at it like a snub. And it absolutely was. So none of the last 5 years has the winner in this category gone on to be nominated for an Oscar. So I have Ramel Ross winning. Nickel Boys as a film has 34 wins and 136 nominations. That's why so many people were shocked that Nickel Boys hasn't been performing, because it did so well early on in the award season. Ross has been nominated for an Oscar before, documentary feature film in 2019 called Hale County This Morning, This Evening. So he is an Oscar-nominated director, but he's not going to get in my nominations unless something drastically changes, which I don't see happening. But I do think he'll get the DGA First Time Director win. Coming in at number 2 is Pala Kapati. That's the director that we've talked about before for All We Imagine Is Light. She was just recently nominated for the Golden Globe. That film has 27 wins and 46 nominations, so, not too bad for an international film. Number 3 is a film that does very well internationally, but when it comes to the US, we haven't heard about it a lot. I don't think pretty much anybody around here heard about it unless you were really deep into the cinematic world. And that was until Kate Winslet got nominated for the Golden Globe for playing Lee Miller in Ellen Kurs's film Lee. So the film, when it comes to award season, hasn't done phenomenal, right? It's got 1 win, 9 nominations, but the fact that it's got Kate Winslet and she was nominated for a Golden Globe, on the BAFTA long list. This director was nominated in 2009 for a documentary feature film called The Portrayal. So again, very well-known director, not so much around the U.S. I do think, though, that directors know her. I think that the film having Kate Winslet in it and, already being talked about is going to help lock her in as a DGA nominee. My 4th pick is from a guy who actually was nominated for an Oscar last year for documentary short film that I thought was adorably cute, and so did all of my aunts and my mom. It was Wawa and Napow. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I'm sure I am, but oh my god. It was the cute one about the 2 grandmas who live together, from both sides of his family, and the grandson, goes and videotapes them, and they sleep in the same, when the one farts. So cute. It didn't win, but Sean Wang has now gone on to direct his first feature film, obviously, called Dee Dee. It's done pretty well in the award season thus far. It's got 16 wins, 35 nominations, so it's no slouch, and I think because he's known for just having his documentary short film last year, and with how much accolades Dee Dee is getting, I think he's got himself locked in for a DGA nom. I will say, I don't know that I'm going to go 5 out of 5 for this one. I'm a little torn on my 5 and 6. I went back and forth a couple different times, and it wasn't up until 15 minutes ago I was like, you know what? You got to go with your heart. You got to go with your girl, Anna Kendrick, for directing and starring in Woman of the Hour. First off, I've seen the movie. I love the movie, and I'm going to be honest with you guys because you know how I feel about y'all out there. I'm going to be honest. I am a Pitch Perfect junkie. I own all 3 of them. I watch all 3 of them. Me and my one friend's kid hung out when I think he was 7 and just sang and watched Pitch Perfect. I love it. But what she does in this film as directing, it's a great first time feature film. If you didn't know it, you wouldn't believe that it's actually her first time directing. The movie has gotten some accolades this season, 3 wins, 4 nominations. And I just have to go with it because I think the movie's good. I think it has gotten the awards. I think Anna Kendrick's a popular name, which names do resonate with the DGA, but so does my number 6. A couple of the reasons I put Anna Kendrick over Malcolm Washington were, 1, she was nominated in 2010 for Best Actress in a Supporting Role for her role in Up in the Air, starring opposite George Clooney, and the fact that she is a woman. And no, I'm not saying that she's not deserving, but the DGA does tend to put more women in the directors category than any other award show out there. So I think that helps. Now, my number 6, that again wouldn't surprise me if he ends up getting in, is Malcolm Washington, who, FYI, is the son of Denzel. So if you don't think that weight carries name with the DGA, you're crazy. So hence, can you see why I'm really torn between 5 and 6? And yes, Malcolm Washington directed my Danielle Deadweiler film, The Piano Lesson. And The Piano Lesson has gotten a ton of accolades. I think they're currently at 17 wins and 43 nominations, something like that. But, the film's great. He's a good director. He's the son of Denzel. So, I'm not going to cry over spilled milk if I flipped those 2 around. At number 7, I have Rachel Morrison for The Fire Inside Me. At number 7, I have Rachel Morrison for The Fire Inside. You've probably seen some previews on TV recently for it. It's the story of and I just said I wasn't going to give descriptions of it, but it's the story of the first American woman to win a gold medal in boxing, and it shows her story, and it's also shortlisted for SCORE, I believe. SCORE. And so the film is getting good reviews. It just came out around Christmas. So I think this category is really tough this year, given that there's so many of the directors who have been nominated for Oscars. And this film just came out at Christmas, yet it's doing well with awards. It's got 3 wins and 12 nominations. And like I said, it is on the short list for SCORE. It's not going to end up getting one of the nominations, but just being on the short list is amazing. I mean, look at all the films that didn't make it on there. Interesting fact, Rachel Morrison herself is an Oscar nominee for cinematography, 2018, and the movie Mudbound. I know, just nuts. You'll recognize the name at number 8, Zoe Kravitz. Yep, that's Zoe Kravitz. She directed the film Blink Twice. I've seen it. It's good. I wouldn't say like it's phenomenal above these other 7 movies, hence the reason I have it at number 8. It's done pretty decent-ish for awards. It's got 2 wins, 14 nominations, but I just think, like I said, too much competition. She's not a previous Oscar winner or anything like that. Just looking at this list, 5 of these directors have been nominated for an Oscar in some category. One of them was just recently nominated for a Golden Globe, and 2 of them have super popular family names. So, I mean, regardless of how this all goes down, these 8 produce some great films, but when you look at them, what's the one that stands out that people were talking about this director being nominated for director of an Oscar, right? It's Ramel Ross. I just don't think that there's any competition in this category when it comes to this. So, all right, now moving on to the big one, and that would be director in a feature film. So obviously these are people who this is not their first feature film. As I do on this channel and as I do in every part of my life, I research a lot. It's my ADHD, and I like to give you guys some of that research. One, some people like interesting facts. Sometimes it might help with your predictions, and I do want to know what you guys are predicting in this category, so please put it in comments. Let's talk about it. But when I went back and looked at the stats for the last 5 years, the DGA winner went on to win the Oscar 4 out of 5 times. The year they got wrong was in 2020. DGA gave it for the film 1917, and the Oscar ended up going to Parasite, which, I mean, to be honest, I don't think anybody really saw Parasite coming. So I don't think you can really blame the DGA for that one, because I think that year, I want to say like stats-wise, over 50 or 60% of people ended up picking Sam Mendes, the film 1917, for Best Director. So you know what? Don't be hating on the DGA for that, right? Here's the other interesting fact. Here's actually the one I thought was the most interesting and actually made it kind of harder for me to pick my top 5 out of my 8, was that there is at least one nominee every year for the last 5 years that is different between the DGA and the Oscar. In 2020, DGA nominated Jojo Rabbit. The Oscars went with Joker. In 2021, DGA went with, of course, Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of the Chicago 7, which, FYI, I love all things Aaron Sorkin. West Wing, The Newsroom, Studio on the Sunset Strip, everything he does is magical, including this film. But it got nominated for a DGA, but it didn't get nominated for the Oscar because instead the Oscar nominated the international film Another Round. In 2022, DGA went Dune, and the Oscars went for the international film Drive My Car. Seeing the theme here? The difference usually ends up going that the Oscars goes international, whereas DGA goes more popular films or well-known people versus international. In 2023, DGA goes with Top Gun Maverick, and the Oscars go with that crazy out there film Triangle of Sadness, which still to this day, if you bring that up to my one aunt, she just goes, ugh. Like, she had to look away during the puking scene.
I'm good.
Oh my God. Oh, please.
Oh, okay. It's okay. She's fine. Yeah.
It's insane. But again, that's who the Oscars nominated for director. So you can see 4 years, there was always one difference. Now last year in 2024, when we had that crazy international year, there was 2 difference. DGA goes Barbie and The Holdovers. And what does the Oscars do? Oh yeah, Year of International, they went Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest. So, okay, where does this leave me now with my predictions? Oh, it was tough, guys. And so really, I want to know not just your winner, but give me your top 5. Like, who are you guys leaning towards? So here's mine. Given that the stats I provided and that the last 4 of 5 years, the winner of the DGA ends up going on to win Best Director at the Oscars, I had to choose Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. I mean, he just won the Golden Globe, he's the talk of the town right now. Nobody seems to care that it's a 3.5-hour movie. Maybe that's going to end up hurting it when it comes to the Oscars and winning it Best Picture. But when it comes to a director, how do you deny the fact that the guy spent 7 years of his life and spent very little money to make this 3.5-hour film? And, per his Golden Globe speech, the director should always have final cut. And you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe the Oscars will end up honoring it. It wouldn't be the first time they've honored a long movie, but given everything that's going on and the movie, I got to give this win to Brady Corbet. The only real competition I see him having in this category, or really any real competition, even when it comes to the Oscars, would be Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez. And that's because Amelia Perez is like just banging down the brutalist door. I mean, if you guys watch my reaction video to the Globes, I kind of provide some stats and stuff. If you haven't watched it, I'll include the link up here. But really, it's the Brutalist and Amelia Perez are like just going head to head. I mean, if you think about it, right, Amelia Perez was the big winner on Golden Globes night, but came in very closely was the Brutalist, right? But the Brutalist won a bunch of really good awards. They each won Best Picture in their own category. Well, now they're going to be going up against each other. So to me, Jacques Audiard is his only real competition. And then at number 3, I've got Sean Baker for Anora, and at number 4, I've got Edward Berger for Conclave. My top four are the same 4 that I think are locked down for getting the Oscar director nomination, which means my number 5 for the director Oscar is still up in the air a little bit. I mean, I'll be dropping that video before nominations on January 17th. I think I know who it is for the Oscars, but I'm not entirely sure. So if I think about it, if there's always one difference between the DGA and the Oscars, and that the DGA tends to be the more popular one, I got to give number 5 to John M. Chu for Wicked. Wicked's a popular movie. It's going to do well. It's going to continue to do well. I get that it's like losing its popularity a little bit, but I just think John M. Chu is going to end up getting the DGA nomination. Even though directors can be snobs, I think that they cannot overlook the popularity of Wicked, and if they do ignore him, I think there's just going to be a lot of snub talk and a lot of talk that they don't necessarily want to deal with. I mean, I could be wrong, so hence the reason that on my bubble I have Coralie Farjat. I get that she's an international director and DGA tends not to go international, but if you think about it, Coralie, The Substance, it's all the rage. I don't even think people think about her being international. And honestly, if I had to pick 5 right now for the Oscars, she would be my 5th. And I'm guessing you guys kind of already knew that. At number 7, I've got Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. And honestly, I have him at number 7 because I get that DGA likes him. But you know what? They already nominated him for Dune Part 1 back in 2022. He got that nom. I do think Dune Part 2 is better, but I mean, there's just too much competition this year. Been there, done that. I think if anybody is going to beat out John Chu, it's going to be Coralie Farjat. I've got Greg Kadar for Sing Sing at number 8. As much as critics and people talk about wanting to keep Sing Sing alive, I really don't think the DGA gives a shit, like whether or not Sing Sing stays alive. SEG, different story, right? We've already talked about those nominations and those predictions for tomorrow, which, again, I could be wrong come 9:30 in the morning, but this one gets announced tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time. As you can see, I'm going to be watching out for those and then trying to also not only post my SEG reactions, but I do want to post a DGA reaction, and then at some point we'll talk about the documentaries. But guys, I think given the history of DGA, we really got to look close at this. And if there are directors that end up missing, or directors that maybe we didn't even talk about, or like my 7 and 8 get up there, does that change my Oscar predictions? Will it change your Oscar predictions? I mean, the DGA has a pretty good record. Maybe at some point I'll go back and do prior to 2020 and see how well the DGA does, or maybe somebody else already has that stat. And if you do, put it in comments, because I'd love to not have to do all that research. But tomorrow I'll be dropping my SEG reactions video. I'm going to watch this one at 3 o'clock, and then I'll try to drop a reactions video sometime probably tomorrow night, probably not right after the 3 o'clock announcement. But I really want to keep an eye on the DGA because, man, given their history, I think we got to look at it, guys. So let me know your thoughts. Please make sure to like and subscribe. All of the films, all of the categories through my Oscar-obsessed ADHD point of view. Thanks for joining, and until next time.